Good morning, boys and girls. I'm glad that you're here with me today. Last week, we gone over the introduction and we started on lesson one. Today, it's going to be really, really short, and we talked about types of lines already. So today, we're learning about gesture drawings. Reviewing, should I say. We've already learned this. See how much you remember. So in lesson two, we are talking about gesture drawings. Lesson 2 introduces gesture drawing. A gesture is an expressive movement. Gesture lines are quick. They're quick lines. There are lines that are quickly drawn to capture the movement of a person, animal, or object in a painting or a drawing, kind of like a really quick sketch. Today, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be learning how to define and identify some gestural lines used in art. You're going to demonstrate knowledge in the lives of the artwork of the artist Audrey Flack and Paolo Veronese. And then you're going to use loose lines to create a gesture drawing. You should, at the very end, also be able to evaluate your own artwork using the 4 steps of art criticism. So,
What are some ways that artists show movement?
¿Cuáles son algunas de las maneras en que los artistas muestran movimiento?
let's check out our feature for spotlighting music, The Locomotion by Gerry Goffin and Carole King. Gesture lines are quickly drawn to capture movement of a person, animal, or object. Minimal details and repeated lines, which means there's not a whole lot of detail, but there's just a bunch of repeated lines and shapes to help you get a sense of what kind of movement or showing movement. It doesn't really have any details. It's just like quick sketches. So you're going to be either playing or singing the locomotion while you illustrate the 3 gesture techniques. So what I would like for you to do is to try to use lines in your music to develop your drawings. You could maybe sketch something real quick as you listen to this song. And this is called The Locomotion by Carole King and Gerry Goffin. And I'm sure you've heard this before.
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. I know you'll get to like it if you give it a chance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. My little baby dancer can do it with ease. It's easier than learning your ABC. So come on, do the locomotion with me. You gotta swing your hips now. Come on, baby. Jump up, jump back. Oh, well, I think you got the knack. Now that you can do it, let's make a chain now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. A chugga motion like a railroad train now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. Do it nice and easy now. Don't lose control. A little bit of rhythm and a lot of soul. So come on, do the locomotion with me. Come on, do the locomotion. Come on, do the locomotion. Come on, do the locomotion.
So we're going to look at these works of art on these 2 pages. The first one is by Audrey Flack and it's called Self-Portrait, The Memory. It was painted by her in 1958 when she was an art student. And Sheet of Studies for the Martyrdom of St. George. The Martyrdom of St. George was created in Italy around 1566. It's a full page of gesture sketches used as a study for a painting. Artists like to make studies of models before they begin their final compositions. We'll zoom in these later on.
Let's take a close look at the 2 works of art.
Vamos a observar detalladamente estas 2 obras de arte.
So, if you look around your room, observe how everyone is moving in your house. Notice the different types of lines around you. What do these gestures represent? Notice the nationality of each artist and each year the artwork was created. So Audrey Flack, she's from Ohio. The other one's from LA. How would a Flack self-portrait be different if she had been a woman living in the 16th century? Okay. Well, she has pants on. In the 16th century, she probably would not have had pants on. She also has short hair. So I don't think that women back in the 16th century had short hair. She's not even wearing a dress, which is okay for us to do, but back then, that would not have worked. So studying both works of art and finding repeated lines that represent movement. And this one right here, if you look closely, the figures, 1566. You can see a lot of these lines, the figures. You see that there's a lot of lines that are like repeated. It's kind of like going over and over and over and over lines, different types of lines. It's an Italian painting called The Martyrdom of St. George. You can find this in Los Angeles, California. So you see a lot of repeated lines in that one, right? And which figure seems to be the most lively? The one that is very most lively is this one because there's lots of movement. This one right here, I don't know. She just kind of looks like she's standing there. She's not really showing any motion to me. She's just standing there. But I think if you look at her arm, the artist has like these lines all around there. Maybe you're trying to make it look like it's three, like her arm is moving. But still, even with that, I still think this one shows more movement. Okay. Compare the works of art. What similarities do you see and what do you see that's different? Well, Flack's painting is oil used on canvas. And then this one is pen and ink and it's brown. And then after they've used a wash, which is like they did it with like a brown ink. And then they used watercolor to go over it to kind of melt the lines in a little bit. Let's look at this chart real quick. Oh, it's not a chart, it's a picture. A gesture is an expressive movement. Gesture lines are quick lines that are drawn to capture something or a movement of a person, animal, or an object. A gesture sketch is a quick sketch to capture the gestures of an object.
Can you illustrate a gesture?
Pueden ilustrar un gesto.
Repeated lines are used to give the feeling of movement or motion. Keep repeating the same lines over and over, tracing it, and that kind of gives the illusion that it's moving. Repeated shapes like hands or legs also give the motion. Like a lot of times if you're like drawing a cartoon and you're trying to show that he's got like a bionic arm and it's moving up and down, you might draw it in motion like, you might have it, one arm down, one arm in the middle, one arm up, and then kind of draw some lines on it so it kind of gives you the motion that the arm is moving back and forth. So, for instance, if you were going to illustrate 3 gesture techniques, 3 movements, make a quick sketch capturing the gesture of several of your classmates or someone in your house. Make sure your sketch has repeated lines, shapes, and very little detail. See if we can figure out what body part is moving by repeating some of those lines over and over again. If you look at this picture right here, this is by an artist named Hayden Werner, who's 9 years old. Think about how the artist created movement in this drawing. Remember, it doesn't have a whole lot of detail. It kind of just has the outline and they're just quick sketches. This looks like someone's moving up and down. They have like you can kind of tell that they're not standing still. Their leg is bent. Their arm is bent. Looks like they're in motion. This one looks like they're swinging something, a bat or something. His legs are spread apart and his arms are up. So you can kind of tell these drawings, you can tell that they're people and you can tell that they're not calm and they're not standing still. You can tell that they're in the act of moving. How can you tell? How can you capture the look of movement in your drawing? So I want you to do a little sketch for me. Use some sketchy lines. You can take turns with someone in your family and have them pose, or you can make up a pose in your mind, or you can look at yourself in the mirror. Or you can just draw your own and repeat the lines and shapes over and over again to let your fingers overlap and fill the entire page. Here's a person who has their friend and they have their friend posing and then they're drawing a little sketch, some motion sketch. Take turns and then repeat the lines and shapes to let the figures overlap around the entire page. So you should be able, when you're done, to describe the figures in your drawing. You should be able to talk about the different techniques and the different types of gestures or movements that you remember. Gesture means movement, type of movements that you used. And what type of feeling have you created in your drawing? What kind of lines which lines represent action? Do you feel like you successfully caught the movement or gesture of your classmate or your friend or your brother or sister? Explain.
What have you learned about how artists draw gestures?
¿Qué han aprendido acerca de cómo los artistas dibujan los gestos?
You've completed lesson 2. Let's see if we have any tests. Nope, lucky you. Okay. So we are done, and I will join you for lesson 3 later. Have a fantastic day, boys and girls.